You are now listening to the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whatever time you are listening to us, this is the Molten Fantasy Sportcast. Before I hand over to my lovely mates and co-hosts, I must say, click subscribe. This is the best time to do it. Click subscribe. You do not want to miss any episodes between now and round one. And I tell you what, we are damn close. It is pre-season game, and I am loving it. But I'm going to give a shout out to my fellas who are sitting here in the studio with me. Mickie Del, how are you, my friend?
G'day, mate. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am the co-owner, the founder of 2022 version of Mixed Pigs, also known as the Big Horse. How are we, boys?
Very, very good. And Mr. Kangaroo himself, Justin Herby, how are you?
Very, very well, boys. Kanga. Roo. Clarko's disciples are here to drop some knowledge on you. Let's get it done, boys.
I love it. And my name's Rob Kennedy. I am your host for the episodes that we go through. And like I said before, we are getting very close to round one. And there's nothing better than being able to go to work and stream a little bit of KO and see some footy. I live in WA, so you guys might have finished work by the time they were streaming, but I was sitting at work, and I'm very close to installing a TV in my office because I'm that excited about this season.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's just going to have to be done. I don't know if we're allowed to say our occupation. Some of you might not be able to say your occupations on this podcast. I'm not sure, so I'll leave it to you. What is your work setup? Do you get much TV there, or is it only when you get home?
No TV time for me, unfortunately. It's all on the radio, and then once I get home. So with this, we get to have the fun part. We get to chew the fat about footy, go through stats. This is awesome, but how good is it to see the first preseason game where teams are actually cracking in, forming up as if they will round one, playing players in position so there's no more messing around.
Yeah, I think we saw another level from today's games. Today's been Thursday. This is probably going to drop on Friday, so you might hear us say today and tomorrow. We're referring to Thursday's games, and then we've obviously got Fridays. But you can see a difference between this week and last week already. Yeah. I think we're starting to see probably a more solidified 22. So I was very clear on looking at those best 22s and where people are lining up. So that is what we are talking about in this episode today. We have all revealed our teams. If you haven't seen them, make sure you go back and have a little bit of a look. We'll talk about our Supercoach League probably midway through this episode. Make sure you join and sign up. We're getting lots of numbers, and we're super excited about that. But today's episode is going to be about our watch list. And we're talking about the importance of this game and who are going to be the most important players to watch and who are the most getting talked about in teams. So do we just dive in? We're Hawthorn-Collingwood. Is that where we're going to start? So Hawthorn-Collingwood, I've got a bit of a list here, boys. I'm going to start with my list. They've kind of mixed up between cash cows, those questionable players, those lock players, and then I'll open up to you guys and we'll have a look and see what you feel. So we're going to start with those that have sort of been talked about as cash cows. And the two that I'm going to bring up are McKenzie and Green, both on Hawthorn's list. Herbie, have you? What's your input on those two players first, or one? I'll let you kick us off, mate, and then we'll throw to the stat man himself.
Well, what's McKenzie at? 180K, isn't he? So he's pretty cheap, and he did pretty well today. So against a pretty good midfield with the Pies there. So I think if he's looking that good, he matched it with Newcomb in the middle there, did pretty well. So I think for that price, I've got to get him in my side. I don't think he's in there yet, but I think he's a must-have.
He didn't get picked last week, did he? And there was a lot of talk about why he wasn't in there and the niggles and things like that. And everybody wanted to have a look at him. Early pick for Hawks, obviously, this year. But, mate, Mick, I know you watched this game because I was getting a lot of text messages from you.
Yeah.
A lot of people telling me that I shouldn't watch after the Hawks were down 13-0 to start this game. But they looked like they went all right. And I think McKenzie was clearly a shining light. So maybe have a chat about what you saw of him as a player and then what you saw of him as a Supercoach prospect.
Yeah, so from a player point of view, top 10 pick from last year, he was brilliant. Like, he played a good combination of inside and outside mid today and just found the ball with ease. It probably helped that they were structuring up a lot better this week, and they had their formations around the ball with their inside mids and outside mid structures set up properly. And they're actually winning a bit of the hit-outs with Ned Reeves and Lloyd Meek in there. Neither of those ruckmen scored well, so from my point of view here, we don't look at them at all. But with Cam Mackenzie, 24 touches, 8 contested, 1 goal, and 99 Supercoach points for today's game against a good midfield. You know, one of your top tier midfields in the comp in Collingwood. And it looked like Collingwood were going to run away with it early. Like, they were 4 goals up, and Hawthorn made their way back into the game and could have easily won this game. So from a rookie point of view, from a cash cow point of view, he's screaming pick me. He's up there with Will Ashcroft after what I saw today.
Talk to me about your boy. I know you've brought up Green before. Country boy. And
I might have mentioned in our first podcast that he's local Bendigo lad.
You did.
He's old man. He's a local legend here, Sandhurst legend. He looked good when he presented well, and when the guys hit him up, he's a good set shot on goal. I think he had 3 straight at one stage. Finished with, I think it was 3 goals, 2. 5 marks, 3 goals. He did more than enough to cement himself, especially with Mitch Lewis out in the first couple of rounds, with Lewis going down with a knee. I will highlight this, though. He is bargain price, but once Mitch Lewis comes back, I do believe that he'll keep his spot, but he's going to be a slow burn on your bench. He's not going to make your 80, 70, 80K per week. He might only get to 300,000, but if you're looking for job security, if you're looking for, just someone that's going to make you a bit of coin, you could do a lot worse than Fergus Green. He was definitely that second or third tall option, and he looked good at his feet as well in the forward line. So he made Billy Frampton look really silly at times.
Yeah, I got no issue with picking some players early that you're not going to keep them in for a long streak. As we've talked about many a time, added trades this year. So at some point you're going to go, look, when do I pull someone out, pull in another rookie, upgrade a mid-price maniac to somebody that's already starting to show a little bit of promise? You can take those kind of changes this year. You don't really have to wait for everybody to get to their full value. And I think you're right. He might be one of those players. I think Radicalia might be one of those players as well, that you just get him in now to get the cash that they're going to get quickly and then move up from there. So, what's your thoughts, Herbie? Do any of those 2 players go into your side now, or where are you sitting with
sure.
them?
I think Mackenzie's a lock. I also want to ask Sir Mick over there, just an observation from today's game. Who was playing the half-back role that Dacos played last year? Was it shared between Noble and Quainar?
That's a good question, mate. Dacos stayed in that role, and he was tagged by, is it, you know who he is, Robbie, is it McDonald?
No. It was Finn McGuinness.
Finn McGuinness did a ripper roll on him, locked him right down up until probably halfway through to 3/4 of the way through the third quarter when Dacos started to get off the leash. But just seeing that, as great of a preseason as Nick Dacos has had, it worries me. It's almost like he's an Angus Brayshaw type of player where he can't shake a tag. So there's question marks for me now over that player. Like, I know he's still sitting at 50% because of all the rave and how good this player is, but given someone as inexperienced as Finn McGuinness going down, and Finn played a ripper role and kicked a goal on him as well, that's concerning.
Yeah, I reckon, it's definitely made that reason to sort of look at it and go, and Herbie, you brought this up when I revealed my team, and I know a lot of people have him sitting in their D2 spot, but maybe he can't hold that D2. Maybe he has to be a D3. I still think at that 500K D3, and look, not every team has a tagger. I think McGuinness is going to play that tag role, and he does it well. Dacos still walked away with 75 points. It's not horrendous, but it's not what you want in your D2 position or at a 500K. And once word gets out that you maybe can't break a tag, it gets out pretty quickly, and people know that they can put somebody on there, especially someone who's not a huge attacking asset. Like us giving up a Finn McGuinness to tag out Dacos, that's a win for like a Hawthorn massively. So, look, the other Dacos outshone him with 105 and looked pretty good. So I think there's a lot of people questioning, and probably the $1 million question that I might ask both of you to hold on. I won't get you to answer it now. We might ask it at the end. I'll try and remember is, how much do you actually put into these preseason games, and how much do you have to be very careful not to just be reactive to what goes on, or too reactive that it comes back and bites you? But we've skipped the run sheet. Justin, I worked very hard on these run sheets. You've already brought up Nick Dacos, which wasn't meant to come up for about 4 players' time, but it was a very good question, so I'll let it slide. Warple is an option. Warple is an option. Now, Warple was in my team. He was my mid-price maniac sitting next to Hopper in my team when I first decided to stack my midfield a little bit more. I got very nervous from game one and what kind of role that he was going to play, but we'll start with you this time, Del. He looked good. He looked good.
30 touches, 17 contested, and 9 clearances. Looked far better today playing that role that he played not last year, the year before, where he won the Hawthorn Best and Fairest. With him as an inside mid, you had Will Day as well, playing as a sort of the quarterback, as we call it in footy terms, which is that person behind the actual play that your inside mids get it out to for them to be able to use the ball. Will Day played that role really well as well. But when we're talking about Warple at 300K and having that sort of an influence on the game, like they're Tom Mitchell-esque numbers when Mitchell was at the top of his game, that stat line, 101's quite low. Like that could easily turn into 120 or 130. He's back on my radar now after seeing that. And I'm probably going to look for ways to try and get him in, because at that price, when you're looking at Nick Dacos and he's priced at 200K more and he scored 30 something less, you've got to ask yourself, well, what's going to give here? What do you reckon, Justin?
No, I don't agree. I would definitely feel more safe taking Dacos, paying the extra 200K, because I just think he's more class. I know that, he did have his struggles today, but let's not put too much into preseason games. It was a close game. I think if this game is played in the regular season, Collingwood win by 102 points instead of 8. Sorry, Rob. So, look, I don't mind Warple, though, at that price. You could probably talk me into it. But I'm very, very high, as you guys know, on Nick Dacos. So he's young. He can obviously, if he played that role as well, of half back, hopefully they're just going to put him into the midfield. Mitchell, he's got a lot of gun players with him in that midfield bracket who can ease the tension a bit with him. So you got Mitchell, Taylor Adams, Pennells can go in there, pinch hit. I don't see it as a concern with Nick Dacos at all.
Mark my words, Warple could be my difference to going against the grain of like a Tom Green.
Yep.
So where people have gone the Tom Green, where I feel I can make a bit of money back, unless I give up on my Whitfield kind of throw out and keep Tom Green, I could go against the grain and throw a Warple in there. I think he's going to go in and play that role. I think he suits Supercoach. I think between him, Newcomb, and even having a look at Will Day, I really like what the Hawks are going to do, and I think they're really going to try and blood that group. Mm-hmm. But I know you have a dig at Hawthorn, but I actually don't rate Collingwood that highly. I know they had some freakish games, but you look at that list, I don't actually think it's that. There's nothing in there that really impresses me. There's nothing in there that really impresses me to be another top 4, top 6, top 8 side.
You got to remember this. They were leading the Cats at 3/4 time in the prelim final, and they looked like they were going to win that game. The Cats were far and above. Yeah, the Cats were far and above the best team in the league last year. They probably will be this year as well. And Collingwood only got better this offseason as well. So all their additions actually complement them really well. So I think they're really well coached. As much as...
What are all their additions? Other than Tom Mitchell?
You got Bobby Hill.
Bobby Hill was hardly getting a game at a poor GWS.
He will
Bobby
do
Hill's
well.
only relevant because he puts his name up on the trade TV documentary on Netflix every weekend. The guy was struggling to get a game
That's
at GWS
exactly who
when
they
they were
need,
sitting
Rob.
down at the bottom 4 on the ladder.
That's
What's
exactly
Bobby Hill
who
done
they
in
need.
his career?
Hill had 6 touches and 1 goal today.
What has Bobby Hill done in his career
It's
to say that
pre-season.
is a massive inclusion into the Collingwood side?
Bobby Hill, Frampton,
Oh,
McStay. You don't think those boys will make any difference in this side?
no.
We'll see.
I think McStay is way too much like a Myercheck. I think they've gone like for like a borderline half decent forward who is okay, brings out the best piece of talent they have in their body, puts their body into it, is well overpaid, and they're also paying Grundy's half a Grundy's salary while he's playing at the Demons right now. Like I don't see anything. I like watching them; they're exciting. But you talk about them actually pushing Geelong, great. When we talked about the Hawthorn dynasty, Hawthorn's 3 prelim games were all under a kick. They might have never have made any of those grand finals if the ball spilt the other way. Prelims are always going to be tight and interesting. I just don't rate them that highly. I think they're solid. I just don't think they're that good. But I could be wrong. That's all right.
We will see.
I just don't rate them.
Let's see how the
Everyone talks about
musicians
you can't say Geelong and Collingwood. Who's going to finish higher? Like Carlton, I rate Carlton's list. I actually think Carlton's list is a way more damaging list than Collingwood's list, if I'm being honest. When you look at the 2-headed serpent that they have up forward, you can't go wrong. If those two stay fit, with the midfield that Carlton have and Sam Walsh coming back.
But you know Carlton's problem? I'll tell you Carlton's problem. They are Carlton. That's their
We'll
problem.
talk about Carlton when we get to it.
Yeah, we'll get there. Sorry, we push on. Let's go into some Supercoach numbers now. So, Mitchell's role. What did everyone think about Tommy Mitchell's role?
Yeah, he looked good. What was it? 28 touches today? Look back to his old self. So if Dacos is kind of in that back role, half back role, and then Mitchell's taking the load of it, I think with DeGoey played a lot in the midfield too as well, didn't he, Mick? Then, yeah, hopefully he can build off this, get a bit of confidence with his new side and go forward.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I didn't rate it highly, but he did okay. I found a lot of his possessions to be rushed and he was quite fumbly with the pill. He was winning it inside enough, but I'm glad you brought up Jordan De Goey. You might be able to tell me how much he's worth, Justin, but he had 31 touches and 13 inside 50s and could easily have scored 2 goals as well on the run that he missed. So,
468K, Mick.
How much, sorry?
468K.
Ooh.
It's a bit high, isn't it?
That
What is he?
actually,
What are they giving position-wise?
midfield.
Is he only midfield?
Yeah. After watching him today, he is still their X factor. Like, I know people talk about Dacos or the Dacos brothers, and they talk about Pendlebury and even Jack Crisp. I'm not sure what Crisp numbers are like, as in what his price is like. But Jordan De Goey has the ability to turn a game on its head. And when we're talking about Supercoach, his possessions count. Like, he's always either kicking it long, kicking goals, taking grabs, tackles, winning free kicks because people are hanging off him. They're all big Supercoach point scorer options. So at 460K, that might be a good shout for someone to go, hey, I've got nuts the size of Arkansas. Let's put him in, So
Well, you got
personally,
Chris,
I won't because
Chris at
What's that?
520K, Mick.
yeah.
So that's something
Yeah,
to consider.
Yeah, I like Chris, but I think he's only midfield again this year. So the fact that he's lost out on his defensive ability to go back in our Supercoach sides, I think kills Crisp because he doesn't score those big end scores. He's very consistent, and if you're looking for consistency, you could do a lot worse than Crisp. But when you're looking at the scores of 120, 130, 140, rarely does he generate that.
Mate, I love the De Goey shout. He's their best player by a country mile. He is their most important player. He's 100% there. He's kind of like like the package at Essendon, but just better. He's better. He's starting to show that he's more consistent, especially in that midfield position. You kind of forget about De Goey in a strange way, which you shouldn't, because he's definitely the X factor. But you're right. If he does continue to get more of that midfield time, he shows when he's in there. He puts up big numbers. I think for me, and I talked about that Whitfield pick. The thing I love about the Whitfield pick around the same kind of price is I actually think De Goey will average more than Whitfield. But I know that come round 6, I'm a good chance to put Whitfield back into that back line when he gets defensive mid. And I don't have to make massive changes for that to happen. And I'll still get the numbers that I want from Whitfield. But yeah, I don't mind the De Goey shout at all. It's not a bad call.
It's a ballsy shout. That's what that is. I think.
But these are the players we've got to look at to go when he is getting more midfield time. And if he does, he puts these kind of numbers up. And actually, if you go and look at the games where he does get that midfield time regularly, he puts those numbers up regularly and consistently.
Yeah.
It's just, we all know he's a bit of a party boy and a bit nuts, and we're probably a bit worried what he's going to do.
Yeah, I'm just worried about his consistency. Like, I have a bit of a punt, and I've been on De Goey 20 disposals quite a lot, and he just goes missing for me. Whenever I'm on it, he's just nowhere. I'm like, but when he gets it, it's like he does so much with it that you really notice, right? So he breaks tackles, kicks the ball long, shrugs a tackle, takes on 3, kicks it from 60. Like he's a highlight feature. He's just for me, he's too inconsistent, and I'd be too scared.
I might just run through a few other numbers from this game before we move on to our next game.
If you do, please do. But the one last player I wanted you to have a look at and get a feel from was Darcy Cameron, the ruck time there and what that sort of looked like. But yeah, run off some numbers and then make sure we throw him in as well. And yeah, good to move on.
He was pretty good today. His ruck work was good, mind you, against some more inexperienced players in Lloyd Meek and Ned Reeves. He did score 97. He had 10 kicks, 4 marks. My concern is that Cox was in there a lot. And we'll get into whether you guys believe that preseason games are worthy of recognition or not later on in the episode. But this is a big red flag for me. Like, it could have nearly been 50-50 by the end of the game that they actually shared the duties in there. So while he looked good, 97 is probably the absolute peak of where he's going to score if that time that they spend, himself and Cox, in as ruck continues on moving forward into the season proper.
Mick, where was Cameron going with the ball? So was Cox going forward, or
yes.
was Cox going back, or like how did it work
Cox
with
was
them
going
two?
forward.
Okay.
Yeah, Cox went forward. Yeah, and Darcy was a little bit behind the ball, and then I quite like his aggression at the pill, and he's like a bigger on baller once the ball hits the deck. He's quite good below his knees, but it was just the time that he spent in the middle is a concern for me.
Yeah, he's a big stay away from me this year. I know he's in a lot of teams and he's highly rated. I just think that there's better value elsewhere, to be honest. So for me, yeah, he's a big stay away. That one of those things is like, oh, is he the main guy or whatever? But I don't trust him. Like he hasn't had a real body of work in the ruck, like your Grundys, like your Tim Englishes, like your Sean Darcy's. Like he doesn't have the body of work. He might be that main ruck, but I think the Pies just signed another rookie ruckman about a month ago or so. So they're obviously, just wanting a backup just in case someone goes down. But yeah, for me, he's a clear stay away.
Yeah. Just a few more before we move on to the next game, Robbie. John Newcomb scored 92, 27 touches, 9 contested, 7 clearances. He's clearly the number one bull at Hawthorn, but if you're talking about peak numbers and at his price, he's a stay away from me. We've got James Sicily, 96. He scored 22 touches, 10 marks. And as I thought, he went to Dan McStay and stayed with McStay a lot. And McStay was leading away from the pill and trying to drag Sicily away from the ball. So as we've touched on in previous episodes, where we thought Sicily might get tagged. He wasn't tagged this game, but Collingwood were employing a method that they were using one of their second or third forwards to lead away from the pill to try and drag Sicily away. And the 2 times I did see where Sicily tried to drop off McStay, the ball went to McStay and McStay goaled. So that's tricky, that. Dylan Moore, 70, 15 touches, 2 goals. He was rested towards the back end of the game. Again, like last year, a lot of those points were in the first half, but did go quiet. Will Day, 88 touches. 88 points. 88 touches is a lot. 20 touches,
That's
9 contested.
used
the ball well. Yeah. He was unbelievable by the sounds of that. A rookie option, Henry Hustwaite, 7 touches, 3 marks, scored 34. Don't touch him. Wait till mid-season where there's some injuries or he has a good body of work in the twos and comes up. He looked a little bit out of his depth today. And Lloyd Meek, we touched on him earlier. He scored 66, 15 hitouts, 1 goal. Too much of a risk when you're talking about him and Ned Reeves. When they were resting, they were both playing forward. They both kicked a goal, but it looked pretty awkward up there alongside Kaczynski, Fergus Green, and these guys. So with your Hawthorn rucks, stay away.
Beautiful. All right, we move on. Good chat. We thought this might be a 25-minute episode. We've kind of done one game. We're at 26. Look at us go. Fremantle and Port Adelaide. So having a look at our sort of people to watch for a bit of cash. Who did I have listed? I had Johnson I had Hamling as well, but Hamling didn't play. Johnson, Hamling, and Teakle are the 3 that I had. Who wants to jump in?
Mick,
You can go first, Justin. Yeah.
You go first, Mick.
Teakle did next to bugger all. Disappointed in my boy. From what I saw, he won't be playing round 1, so you can scratch him off. Hamling didn't play. Johnson came on in the last quarter. He will start the year in the 2s. It looked as though Fremantle were starting with their best 22 today with their rotations and the way they were playing. They look slick. With Fife up forward too, they look really strong through. In footy terms, it's called the spine, so through the middle of the ground. And with him alongside Tabiner and these sorts of guys, they look really strong aerially up forward. A big team to watch this year.
How did the man who shall not be named go?
I thought he was pretty ordinary.
I've seen him.
Horn Francis had 21 touches, 6 frees against, and 6 tackles.
Yeah,
he scored 81, which is kind of like his North Melbourne days. You know, he does a lot of good things. He does some things where you think, geez, this bloke's 2 bolts short of a toolbox. So he's just one you stay away from. We've mentioned this in earlier episodes where we always thought that he wasn't getting enough love at North Melbourne. He went to Port Adelaide. They want to try and blow up his bubble to make him feel good about himself again, and he's effectively the same player here.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's done good things. Like I've sneaked into the Big Footy Port Adelaide board once or twice in the last couple of weeks, and they're putting photos of Jason Horne-Francis on Jesus photos and everything, like us North people were doing this time last year. But look, I saw the practice game last week where he did pretty well. He's got the surgery on both knees, so people were worried about his acceleration, but that's always going to be there and stay there. And he did, a couple of good things. He's got really good, still acceleration and vision. And he just, does highlights. He's a highlights package as well. So, but he also, it's just those bad things that he does that really put me off him at North, and he was really, really inconsistent. His tackle count always started really high and then just kept coming down and down and down. So it'll be interesting to see, how he goes with effort, especially at the start of the year, and just if he's cuddled enough to go go well or what he'll do. Be very interesting.
Yep.
The other one I had, I've got a couple more listed, but the next one I wanted to talk about was the Zach Butters first hit out. What did we see from Zach Butters? Wasn't too much
rusty.
from what I saw, but yeah.
Rusty. He needed the blowout.
Yep.
Scored 60. Where are we? 16 touches, 5 marks, 1 free for, 2 frees against. It was the Zach Butters where he was going in head first, like we know him to be, but without the polish. So that'll come with games. But to start off with, he's had 1 fair hit out. He's going to have a week off, straight into round 1. I think his price is going to drop, and that's when we try and snatch him up in rounds 4, 5, and 6.
Yep. Yeah,
Curious what Bergman is priced at in Supercoach.
He was really good today, but from years gone by, he was pretty inconsistent. But he looked a class above today for Port Adelaide. His ball use was exceptional.
So he's at 374K. His 2022 average in 10 games was 68.1, and then the year before in 21 games was 55.5. But Port fans really, really rate him. He was talked about in the Horn-Francis trade if he was potentially coming to North. So I started researching him and looking into him a little bit. He had a ripper game today. So let's just see how he goes. But he could be... Just want to see his position if he's... Can't see it here, but he's just midfield. Yep. So probably at that price, just midfield. It's a stay away.
Yeah. Look, I think for Port Adelaide, the only one that really impressed me today was Connor Rozee. He was exceptional playing through the midfield. His polish, his touch, like he was spearing the ball 55, 60 metres, hitting people lace out. Like he has taken that next step from what we saw today.
His value's definitely risen. I think people feel a lot more comfortable with him in the team, which is nice. I think he's just showing what he's done. Again, I think he's starting to show that he's kind of that nice piece above like the Ollie Wines and things like that. Ollie Wines a 94 dream team and only 70 in Supercoach. I still think he's not a bad choice for someone to get a little bit of a POD with what we know that Brownlow medalist a couple of years ago. So you couldn't go too wrong. Jones just didn't get the time that he thought of people were going to be looking out for as well. But I'm gonna direct my next question to Herbie. So there was a lot of talk about Scott Lycett, and we've talked about him a lot with Tickle and being quite a quality ruckman and all those types of things. But he went up against one big Sean Darcy today, who you're not a huge fan of. But did you check out the stats today, mate?
Having a look at them now. How did he go?
I'll help you out, mate. So
did he score?
I'll help
did he
you
score
out.
at all?
So Scott Lycett had 8 disposals and 19 hitouts for a Supercoach score of 36. Sean Darcy, on the other hand, had 14 disposals, 4 marks, 8 tackles, 38 hitouts, and a Supercoach score of 127.
That's a really big score, and I'm very, very impressed. So do you want to just enlighten me how Luke Jackson went today?
Luke Jackson, who will be playing as the second tall forward for the Fremantle Dockers, did not play today.
Oh, he didn't? Okay. That makes sense then. Thank you. Thanks for that.
I feel very, very confident that Sean Darcy will still put up these strong numbers. He is their number one ruck. Luke Jackson is not even anywhere close to his prime yet. They have made a move for the future, which if I'm choosing Luke Jackson over Rory Lobb and what I've seen him, speaking of the other documentary that's been on Netflix at the moment as well, or whatever it's on, I think it's one of the greatest moves that Fremantle have ever made because Sean Darcy's their man. Sean Darcy is their ruckman.
Can I just say something before we continue on, Justin? That Tracy probably rucked 30% of the game anyway today. And Darcy had his spell out of the ruck. Tracy's not going to play if Jackson's down there. And Tracy still scored his 91, 92 points. which is about what I expect Jackson to average. Maybe a little bit more because Jackson's got a little bit more polish and he's a lot better around his knees, or below his knees, sorry. But Darcy just ragdolled Lycett. It looked like a 16-year-old boy playing against an under-10s kid.
Well, that's why we have these discussion, boys, because I'm definitely not that high on this guy. I think he's a big boy as well, injury prone. So for me, he's a huge stay away. But for all purposes, you boys make as much money as you want on him. I'll be on the Tim English train.
I've actually got Witt sitting in my R1 anyway, but I tell you what, I'm big Sean Darcy fan. And that Tracy that you talk about, he's a man child. He's only like 19 years old. He's got a bright future. They've picked him up as a key position forward for later on in life. It's good to see Tabernar sort of back in the side, kicking a couple of goals. Fyfe's showing that he can kick goals. He's going to be kicking goals. I still think he's a little bit of a risk of a pickup, but his price is pretty good. He's showing that, I think the big sleeper for the Fremantle Dockers is, and for super coaches out there, if we're talking about like the Jordan De Goey's different player, but that player that maybe no one's talking about is Will Brodie. I think Will Brodie has shown since coming across what he did last year to now sort of match it again this year. He's just an absolute beast in clearances. He knows how to get the footy.
Yeah. 36 touches and 6 tackles today, 117 points, and could have been a lot more. Like, he was still a bit fumbly with the ball at times. So you put that match simulation into moving forward, that could be a 140, 150 game just there. So
his disposal's not fantastic. I think anybody who follows Freo or watches along, his kick's not amazing, but he like Warple, he just knows how to get it. Just knows how to get it. I love watching him play.
And so you'd be happy with Liam Henry then, scoring 72 Supercoach points today. Was he predominantly on the wing, and was Aish on the other wing?
I heard he was on the.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard he was on the wing. I heard he was a little bit lost still. I heard he had a really good last quarter. But again, like we've talked about with his price, 75, he's priced to get 32. Is what I need from him, something like that. So to see him at least be up on the wing, getting the ball, getting the confidence to play his game, again, still young, working out his craft. But if they put a bit of trust in him with the players around him, I've still got him sitting there. I think at 200K, if I see him lining up on the wing again, my insider at Freo said this was the 22 to look at, and it's probably going to start to show where they're going to play him. And yeah, I thought Freo looked pretty strong in this game, so therefore that puts him in good stead.
They did. And you got to look at it. He's at 200K, so he's basically a rookie. He's still got the ball 16 times, had 8 marks, 75 Supercoach points, and he had a quiet game. Like, he did look a little lost at the start, but sort of worked his way into the game towards the end. There's going to be a lot more players out there that make a lot less money than this guy, and he's fast. He was out the back a couple of times, and he was creating space like you wouldn't believe. So on those big spaces, the big wings in Perth, expect to see him do pretty well.
I don't mind him. I like that he's got X factor and class and speed. I just worry about his tank. That's the only thing I'd be worried about with him.
Okay.
I will ask. I'll find out. I'll find out what his 3K is like. I'll see what's going on. We move on, guys. Do we want to give a shout out? Anyone sitting there? I should be the one that does have this. Does anyone have our Supercoach League code on them there, or any other shout outs that we want to give? We're about 2/3 of the way through our episode right now. Who's got the code?
I'll find it.
You'll find it. We're going to give a massive shout out. This is another chance to click subscribe. We've been inundated with the number of downloaded episodes, both on our show, the NRL show that we do with Nathan and Matt, who do a fantastic job. Justin dropped on our last episode. We've got Matty Garrett coming on board as we expand the Molten Fantasy Sports podcast out to the NBA, which is coming down at crunch time, getting into the playoffs. I mean, I've got I know the LA Pride is coming back from me. I pretty much jumped off ship at the start of the season when I saw the roster, but finally actually putting a roster together to be proud of. The Kings, mate. Kings are thriving. For those that are watching on YouTube, you can see Justin wearing his singlet.
Like the beam.
It's a really, really good NBA season. So we're excited to bring you guys some more content. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, every medium possible to jump on board. It's been an absolute pleasure. Mickie Del, what's that code for everyone to join up into our Supercoach League?
The code, guys, is 237113. I repeat, 237113. I'm not sure whether I got it right the first time, so I'll go again. 237113. Get on board. We are able to confirm now that the winner of our Molten Fantasy Pod this year will receive a Supercoach ring, which is similar to that NBA superstars get when they win the championship, to what you get at the Super Bowl when you win that. Very similar in size. They look ripping. I'd love one to have at home. So if you think you've got what it takes to beat us three and the 80-odd that are already in the league, jump on board, try your luck, and let's see how it goes.
Hey, I'm gonna put something into this. I'm that confident that no one, whoever comes into this league will not beat me. I'll put a bottle of rum on it if someone beats me.
Wow.
From this league.
You've heard it here first. Justin's going to put up a bottle of rum to whoever wins if you don't win.
Just pretty quietly, this is a guy that doesn't have Rowan Marshall in one of his rock spots, guys. So jump on board, everybody.
It can be rum. It can be vodka. It can be whatever you drink. It can be Evian water. Whatever your choice is, under $100. It's yours if you beat me.
So as we heard, guys, 237113. Jump in for your chance to win your own Supercoach ring and a bottle of rum, bottle of vodka, which will be supplied to you by our own Herbert.
Do you know what I love about this? Is he clearly hasn't had a look at how many people are already in our league. Like, mate, there's quite a few people there. You're going to get quite a few bottles of rum.
These are the terms and conditions. If I don't win it, someone else wins it, then that goes to that winner. I'm not paying 99 people a bottle of rum. Jeez.
I'm pretty sure. I'm glad you said that because I definitely heard that as anyone who beats him and gets ahead of him.
We'll just make it for the winner. That'll do.
It's for the winner. So I'll be gifting it to myself.
We press on, guys. We press on. It's been good banter. I like it. We've got one more game, though, I want to get into. We've got to wrap this up. Brisbane versus Geelong. Let's start with the Cashies. McKenna, Wilmot, Sharp, Ashcroft are the ones that I've got on my watch list. What did we get from them, boys?
McKenna, ordinary. He had 14 touches, 53 Supercoach points. I think he plays, but he looked rushed. Not what he looked like 2 or 3 years ago. He's still got a little way to go. Wilmot, 53 points as well, 9 touches, 2 tackles. He looked okay, like even though he had a little bit less than McKenna, but his defensive work was a lot better from watching the game. So from my point of view, I think Wilmot's got more of a chance at starting at halfback than what McKenna does, but we'll see come round 1. Sharp, 3 touches, did not much. Who else do you have, Robbie?
And then, mate, the absolute gun himself, Ashcroft, he's just an absolute weapon.
Wow. Against a good Geelong midfield, 26 touches, 5 marks, 2 frees 4, 3 tackles. Yeah, unbelievable. 96 points.
The father-son strikes again. It's one of those things, isn't it?
I do want to bring up, just before we move on from the Brisbane Lions, we said in prior podcasts that if you don't have Dunkley, that you're probably better off playing netball, Supercoach, or whatever might else be going on. 143 points. He was unbelievable today. McCluggage was good at 134. How much is McCluggage, Justin? Do you know off the top of your head?
570K with a 0% pick.
Wow. That could be a good pod. 134 points.
The thing is, yeah. With Brizzy,
what were you going to say? Sorry,
I was just going to say, with Dunkley scoring that many points, he scored no goals as well.
That's right.
He's usually good for 1 or 2 a game.
Mm-hmm. Harry Andrews, 130, 23. I don't want our viewers to look at these scores and think, wow, Harrison Andrews and Jackson Payne, I think his name is, scored well for their two key backs. They had no Hawkins. They had no Cameron. They were playing with Sam Simpson. They were playing with De Koning. They were playing with next to no key forwards. They left Radigalia down back, and he played quite well down back. When you're talking about key backs, people who are not generally good users of the ball, like Andrews, yeah, he intercepts sometimes, but he's a bit of a roller coaster when it comes to scores as well. I wouldn't pay any attention to their scores today.
Gee, I reckon Brisbane is looking like prime to break out this year. I don't know about you boys, but
they were fast.
Yeah, their side is so stacked. Like, they've got a really deep side. The additions of obviously Ashcroft, Dunkley, Gunston brings some stability up there up forward as well. I rip on the Hawks a lot, but Gunston is a gun. He's just he's such a smart player who knows how to use his body well, and he never misses. He just never misses a goal.
He kicked 1 goal 3 today.
Well, when it's prime time, hey, when it matters, he doesn't miss.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. You're spot on. I used to hate when everybody said that about Bruce. Bruce went through that period where he did miss a goal, and then they're just like, he's a lock. And every time they said it, it was like the commentator's curse. But you're right. Gunston is a gun. Excuse the pun. But it's like, you forget, you don't win 3 premierships in a row without players like that just do their thing. And I kind of loved watching them play last year. It showed actually how good Jack Gunston and Luke Bruce are. Like, even in a weaker side, when they played, they still score goals. They're still a threat. And to think that they were playing in a side with Roughhead and Buddy Franklin up there as well. I mean, it just actually puts in perspective how good that team was. It's just, and Cyril Rioli, like what a forward line, like unbelievable. Sorry, and I will live vicariously in the past because I'm not going to have too much to celebrate for the next few years. So I'll hold on to it as long as I can. But like, in true footy sense, when you talk about how good those players are, and they were like the 4th and 5th best forward in that team, it's pretty phenomenal when you think about it. Let's have a look at Geelong.
I just want to ask. I want to ask Mick a question
go.
or two. Is that okay? Just a quick one, Mick. Tanner Bruin, do you think he will play round 1? And another question that I have for you for this game is that half back line for the Brizzy Lions that is under the pump a lot with who's going to play there. You got Cam Rayner, who I saw he didn't do too well today. Connor McKenna, I think, was there as well. And then who was the last player? Wilmot, was he there, or was he rotating kind of a wing as well? Because all three didn't really score well.
Yep, They all played half back and they all struggled. Yeah,
Eddie Coleman actually went pretty all right.
Coleman's always been good. He uses the ball well. They actually had Coleman playing on a high half forward tonight. He looked pretty good in that role, but for Coleman to be a serious Supercoach scorer, he needs to play off half back.
Yep. Bruin, is he playing round 1?
Beg your pardon?
Bruin, is 100%. He playing round 1?
100%.
I'm looking for ways to get him in my team now. What's he priced at? 300?
I don't have him here.
Yeah, I think he is. I had a look last week to try and get him in my side. I'm not even lying. It's starting to look like a bit of a weird tactic for me, and I just want to have a look at how it looks. But we were talking before, when you guys started getting stuck into the Collingwood game, I literally had in this screen down here, people, if we're watching on YouTube, would have seen my face light up a little bit. I started actually playing with what I could do with pricings. Yeah, mate, this is what we talk about. We start playing with pricings about what we can do. If I drop Tom Green, bring in James Warple, that allows me to then start looking at Dawson or a Tom Stewart instead of Nick Dacos. It allows me to start looking at the idea of stacking my midfield by Oscar Baker or Drury and changing them to a Cam McKenzie. What does that sort of look like in the balance of the team? Things like that. But I do want to be careful that I don't let some of these games. But like your Bruins, I'm really looking at maybe that midfield being stacked with a few mid-price maniacs, and it could be the absolute death of me. But I think
want to play a game
here, boys. Teams,
can I play a game?
Yeah.
I know Bruins price.
Okay.
I know Bruins price.
What's the game? Sorry.
I know Bruins price. All right.
Okay.
I want you guys to guess it, and we'll see how close you guys get.
331.
331.
I'd say 310. 300, 310.
Mick. 311,400.
Oh, beauty. Yeah, right.
That's a ripper.
He's looking every bit of someone that's going to make you 200K within the first couple of weeks. So your price increases don't come about until after 3 games. If he could continue scoring the way he is and averages what he does, he's going to make you 200K after round 6, round 7. And that's
so to make sure with everybody understands what Mick's saying there, though, is that's when you want to make sure that you buy the Supercoach Plus. And after 2 games, you want to be looking at their break-even score, because that's going to give you a very clear indicator that after that 3rd round, what does that score look like? And that's no different to people being smart as well and not rushing on it's not fantasy. If you see a rookie get picked, you don't have to bring that person straight away in because their price ain't changing.
Yep.
Wait to see that break-even component for when it's the right time. No different to having a look at the players that you already have in your team on who's the player to trade out. If that break-even pushes up to 140, 150, that's the time. It's nearly like you're looking at shares, guys. When is the right time to sell? When is the right time to buy? Plays a huge component in this game. I can't stress enough getting that Supercoach Plus.
Mick, I think you've really overrated him.
Subscribe to us. We will give you all of the details. Send us questions.
Absolutely.
We will go through this week by week and give you guys at home all the stats you need to know, all the break-evens, and we can fill you in on all this.
We will, and we will get into some consistency. We'll start to let you guys know what our schedule is going to be. When we get close to the season proper, so the week leading into round 1, that's when we'll start actually naming our episodes. Episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. We'll let you know there will always be a team selection episode where we talk about the break evens and things like that. We will always do a wrap up of the weekends, and then we might even now and then, if we do get the time, throw in some news and some updates and some special episode in there. But be aware, those 2 key episodes will stay every time to get you prepared for making your selections that need to be your VCs, your loopholes, your captains. That's what we're here for. But this is exactly what. And Justin, instead of just playing the guessing game of the price, let's answer the question then that people might be asking themselves at home. There's 2 clear players that we've talked about now around the exact same price. One is 309, one 311 that we feel confident are going to be in the midfields for both their teams. If you had to pick one, are you picking Bruin or are you picking Warple? One word answer.
Warple.
Okay, good.
I'm not confident.
And that's for everyone to go and have a look at. But we're confident both will be there round 1. But make sure you have a look at those things. I think it's a really good answer,
mate. Mick, I just want to say this. You cannot say that comment that he's going to go up to 500K when I look at the 500K players. You got Taranto, Chera, Amon, Rosie, Simpkins, Sarong. Like, I don't see Bruin in nowhere near that class.
How much of the game did you watch tonight?
I watched 0 of it. But
when he's doing this against Lockie Neal, Dunkley, McCluggage, Rayner, Bailey, Segler and Stanley were smashed by McInerney. He's got promise to be a really, really good player.
If I told you he only had to average 83 in the first 3 rounds to jump up 450K.
Wow.
So he jumps up to 450 if he averages 83. If he's playing full-time in that midfield, he could average 83 very easily.
That's a huge stay away from me.
Okay.
I'm going to bring him in.
Do it.
But that's the same. The number I'm using, just so that you guys are aware, the number I'm using on that is, I've got the number on Warple, and they're literally 2,000 difference. So I'm assuming it's the exact same thing. Yeah. If they're averaging 83, they jump up 150K in those first 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Before we do finish our episode, there was a question that you asked earlier about how much of a or how serious do teams take this preseason and the preseason games. Robbie, first, what do you think?
How serious do teams take it? Or my question was, how serious do I take these points? But I'll answer both.
Yep.
I think this round here, they're getting very close to picking their best 22. I think teams that you do have to be aware of are teams like a Geelong, who all year will be rotating their players because they're older and they're in a premiership window. Hence, Bowes was kind of out this week. They wanted to have a look at somebody else and things like that. So I'm always a bit wary of those premiership contending teams. But I think your Hawthorns and your others, you're really starting to see the players are fighting for their spots. So I take it seriously. I just don't want to panic. I think you need to make sure you have a look at who wasn't playing, because that's a very big difference between getting 75% CBAs or centre bounce attendees compared to a 50%, and that makes a big difference to some people's scoring capacities.
Justin?
Yeah, it was interesting. I watched the full North game last week, and I think they took it very seriously. It was Clarko's first game, and I actually had a mate who was on the sidelines. He was 2 meters away from Clarko the whole game, and he reckons Clarko's face was as red as a tomato because he was going crazy the whole game, barking instructions. But he was having a good time, and yeah, they did well. So I'm with Rob. I think that the contenders, obviously like Geelong, Brisbane to a point, those type of teams, can take a backward step. But you know things are getting real when you can put money on a game, and that's what's happening this weekend. So things are starting to heat up. So yeah, I think what you see this weekend is pretty much 90 to 95% the finished product for most teams.
Yeah, and for me, after watching today's games, it was on. The Hawthorn-Collingwood game, that felt like round one, the way that they were smacking into each other, the way that they were structuring up. Hawthorn were actually doing it by the way that they would usually go about it, and there was less messing around with them today. I think last week for them was a lot of trial and error. This week they went back to what they knew works for them. The Fremantle-Port Adelaide game, I sent you a message, Robbie. They were playing. Both teams were playing with a high half forward, which means basically they're playing with an extra on-baller. So if you're looking at the way the teams are named and their structures, both teams were using one of their forwards up around the ball to play as an extra on-baller, which means there's more space in the forward line for your Fifes, for your Taberners, and then down the other end for your Dixons, your Georgiades, these types of players. That's why Fife, he kicked 3 goals and let a few off, or gave a few off as well, which might be in another pod episode before we start round one. And then the Brisbane-Geelong game, I know it's only a preseason game, but it felt like a statement from Brisbane to go, we know you won it last year. We've picked up Dunkley. We've replaced McStay with Gunston. We've got some extra run. And, geez, we're going to just run teams off the park because they looked unbelievably good.
Spot on. And before we sign out, guys, I do want to ask one last question. It'll be, obviously, this episode will be dropped on a Friday. So the games that are happening as we speak and may have even already finished by the time that this gets dropped, I just want you to answer one player in each of the games. I'll go through each one and you can just answer the one as we start. So one player that you're wanting to watch, you don't even have to say why unless it's a really quick sentence. St Kilda, Essendon. Del, who's the one player you're watching in that game?
Windhager.
Herbie?
Zach Merritt.
We go to Sydney, Carlton. Del?
I'm looking at how much time McAndrew gets in the ruck.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm looking at Goulden and if he attends as many centre bounces this week as he did last.
I really like those two answers. Very good, boys. Very, very good. I like that a lot. And the last one is West Coast, Adelaide. Del?
Ask me after Justin.
Justin.
Oscar Allen. I want to see how he goes. He's had a bit of interrupted pre-season, I think, and but if he's fit and firing, I think he's a lock.
There's two for me. Last week, Adelaide went to Dawson a lot and got the ball in Dawson's hands as much as they could. He's a big point scorer and has the potential to go really, really big this year, so I want to see whether that continues. And I'm interested in the rookie Michael Aney, father-son. There's a bit of rave about him. He's been named on the bench this week, so I want to see how he goes about it and whether he'll be there for round one.
Yeah, strangely, not as the actual game spectacle, but I think from a Supercoach perspective, the West Coast Adelaide game will be the one I'm watching the most. There's a lot of players there. I want to see how that Hewitt goes again. I want to see how I like the Dawson call. I want to see where he's at. I'm still possibly tossing up between a Tom Stewart or a Dawson to move into that D2 for me. And the last one also being Dom Sheed. I want to see how he goes. He's another sneaky that comes into that discussion of Sheed, Warple, Hopper, Bruin, Callahan kind of comments of, is there someone there that you take a little bit of a risk on? So definitely a few to watch and see exactly what kind of roles they're playing. So
Before we move on.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Francis, who's moved from Essendon to Sydney, we have received some questions about what his role is going to be at Sydney and will he actually play given that Blakely's had the glandular fever issues. Blakely's back. So put a line through Francis. He was no good at Essendon. He's not going to be any good for your Supercoach side this year.
He's just picked up. He's a good pickup that if they get injuries, somebody can come in and knows how to take a grab. Yeah, spot on. And I think the other one is, I like your Mick Andrews call. I think it's just, he looks like he could get a start. He may take Tickle's spot now as that R3 for me and to get a bit of cash while I put that Madden in as my loophole on the bench. So, guys, we will recap these games. We will recap all the players. We will lead into round one. I guarantee you we will bring the information so that you know exactly who you're going to be picking in that round one position. We'll give you all the options and all the reasons why. I'm loving that Herbie's starting to push back on us because Del and I are starting to think a little bit too similar. So we need Herbie in here to mix it up and tell us completely what not to do. But I joke. He didn't quite get that one. He didn't pick up on that one quickly. But boys, thank you so much. What was meant to be a 20, 25-minute episode has turned into an hour of, I think, great chat. I really love the Goulden call. He's somebody that I want to watch massively. So before I completely sign out, give you one chance for one final word or anything that you guys want to finish on. We're that far over time anyway. It doesn't matter. Herbie, any final words, mate?
No final words from me. I'm all good.
Beautiful. Delhi?
With the ANZPL guys, grand final coming up early next week. Good luck to the people involved and for anyone that wants to get themselves involved in a PlayStation 5 basketball online league. Please email or message the guys on Twitter at ANZPL2K and register your interest from there.
I will 100% be back for NBA 2K24, but right now my full attention is here and I'm loving this and I'm enjoying it so much. Plus I need some better internet anyway if I'm going to keep up with these absolute ballers, or maybe I don't because then I can just blame it on any glitch that I possibly have on how bad I am. But boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved the banter. I've loved the chat. I can't wait as we get closer to round one. I'm losing sleep every day because I'm that excited. For everybody listening at home, thank you. Click subscribe. Don't miss an episode. It's going to be an absolute belter between now and round one, and this content is only going to get better and better and better. We look forward to all the chats on social media. We look forward to all your questions. We will answer them. Send them through. This has been the Molten Fantasy Sports Podcast. Peace out.
See ya.